right now, the most powerful artificial intelligence systems on Earth, the ones generating that crazy photorealistic art or diagnosing rare diseases and even passing the bar exam well, they are actually starving to death.
Yeah, it sounds completely counterintuitive, I know.
Right, especially because they are starving in a world that generates, quintillions of bytes of data every single day.
It really is, well, it's the ultimate technological paradox
Mm.
because we all have this pervasive perception that AI is just this, omnipotent sponge.
Yeah, just effortlessly absorbing the sum total of human knowledge in an afternoon.
Exactly. But the reality under the hood is actually far more precarious. These systems are desperate for sustenance, and the pantry door is just, well, it's jammed shut.
Which is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating piece from MIT Technology Review about a massive shift happening under the surface of the internet.
Yeah, it's a structural shift that most people don't even realize is happening.
Right. It focuses on the emergence of something called the Web Data Infrastructure Layer for AI. And our mission today for you listening is to figure out what this invisible layer actually is, how it functions mechanically, and why it's poised to totally rewrite the rules of how every business operates.
To really grasp the stakes here, we have to kind of look away from the shiny, impressive chat interfaces we play with every day.
The fun stuff, right?
Right, the fun stuff. We need to look down into the unglamorous plumbing of the internet, because right now, that underlying plumbing is fundamentally broken for artificial intelligence.
Wow, fundamentally broken.
Yeah. And if developers don't fix those pipes, the entire AI revolution risks hitting a really severe plateau.
Okay, let's start at the bottlenecks end. Before we get to this new infrastructure layer, we need to understand the starvation problem. Why do these models need so much data in the first place, and why is it so hard to get?
Well, it comes down to how large language models actually learn. They don't learn rules. They recognize patterns.
Right, they just predicted the next word.
Exactly. So to understand the nuance of human language, or to write functional Python code, or to, say, analyze financial markets, they require unfathomable troves of examples.
Just massive, massive amounts of text.
Huge amounts. We are talking about training processes that ingest essentially the entire digitized text of human history.
Hmm.
But developers are hitting a massive structural wall.
Because having data out there in the world is not the same thing as having data that an AI can actually ingest.
Precisely.
Like-
That is the core issue.
So the MIT piece highlights that this data is essentially locked away in two distinct ways. It's either actively blocked or it's highly unstructured. Let's break those down. What exactly does it mean for data to be actively blocked?
So blocked data is a relatively recent phenomenon. It was born directly from the AI boom itself.
Oh, really? So it's a reaction to the AI companies.
Completely. For a long time, platforms and websites just left their digital doors wide open. But once they realized that AI companies were scraping their massive, really valuable troves of user-generated content to train billion-dollar models for free.
They panicked and slammed the door shut.
Exactly. They slammed the doors shut, platforms started throwing up really strict paywalls, they turned off or heavily restricted their APIs, the application programming interfaces that allow computers to talk to each other directly.
Right, no more free lunch.
Exactly. And they implemented complex anti-bot software to prevent automated systems from just coming in and reading their text.
So the data exists, but there is basically a bouncer at the door checking IDs, and bots are absolutely not allowed in.
That's a great way to put it. That is the first major hurdle. But the second hurdle is unstructured data. And this is actually a much more deeply rooted problem.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I'm trying to picture the whole bottleneck, and it feels like it's like having a state-of-the-art, multi-billion-dollar bullet train. That's the AI.
Okay, yeah, I like this.
But the only fuel available to run this bullet train is like crude oil trapped inside a bank vault, which is the blocked data, or it's just scattered in these messy puddles all across a giant jump yard, which would be the unstructured data.
That is actually a perfect analogy, because unstructured data is exactly like those messy puddles. It refers to information that doesn't fit neatly into a spreadsheet or a clean database.
Right, which is most of the internet, isn't it?
It is the vast majority of the internet. Think about random PDF reports, bizarrely formatted corporate web pages, images with text embedded inside them, or overlapping comment sections.
Wait, I'm kind of stuck on something basic here. An AI is just software running on a computer, right?
Nope.
And a web page is just code ones and zeros. Shouldn't a computer be infinitely better at reading a chaotic page of HTML code than I am? I mean, why is a random corporate web page an obstacle for the most advanced software we've ever built?
You know, that is such a common assumption, but it completely misunderstands what web code actually is, and more importantly, who it was designed for.
Okay, explain that.
Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you walk into a massive public library to find a specific recipe in a cookbook. You, as a human, know exactly how to navigate that physical space.
Right, I just look for the cooking section.
Exactly. You ignore the color of the carpet, you ignore the architectural layout of the bricks, you ignore the promotional posters on the wall, you walk the section, open the book, and just read the text on the page.
Right, I don't even consciously process all that other stuff. My brain just automatically filters it out.
Exactly. You filter it out because you have human intuition and context.
Mm.
Now, imagine sending a machine into that exact same library. But the machine has absolutely no ability to distinguish between the text in the book, the fabric of the chairs, and the structural support beams holding up the ceiling.
Oh, wow. So it just sees everything as equal data.
Yes.
Yes.
It tries to swallow and comprehend the entire building at once. And that is exactly what an AI experiences when it looks at a standard web page.
Okay, so when I look at a news article online, my brain instantly ignores like the blinking banner ad at the top, that annoying cookie consent pop-up, the navigation menu on the side, and the copyright footer at the bottom. I just read the actual story.
Yes, because it's visually separated for you. But an AI model trying to scrape that same web page just sees a terrifying wall of raw, unstructured code.
Right, it doesn't have eyes.
Exactly. It sees the text of the article mashed together with the JavaScript for the banner ad, mixed up with hidden tracking pixels, and buried under all these formatting tags that dictate, what color the font should be.
Right, and to an AI, the fact that a headline is bold and blue is completely irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant. It only cares about the semantic meaning of the words. But extracting that clean meaning from the chaotic visual formatting of the web, that takes an enormous amount of computing power and time.
That makes total sense, because we built the internet for human eyes.
We did. And that is what you might call the original sin of the web's architecture.
The original sin, wow.
Yeah, because the internet was built in the early 1990s. It was designed for people sitting at a desk, looking at a screen, clicking on blue hyperlinks, and navigating visually.
Right, it was just digital magazines, basically.
Exactly. It was optimized entirely for human perception. And because of that foundational architecture, anytime an AI tries to pull data from this legacy web, it creates massive, massive friction.
So if the foundational architecture of the web is inherently hostile to AI, and we obviously can't just delete the internet and start over from scratch, I mean, how are developers actually getting around this? How do you bypass 30 years of human-centric code?
Well, this is where we get to the core solution discussed in the MIT Technology Review piece. It's the web data infrastructure layer.
The underground layer.
Exactly. Because developers realized they couldn't just rewrite the entire internet, they decided to build a parallel track. This new layer acts as a highly intelligent intermediary between the messy human web and the AI models that need to consume it.
Okay, let's get into the actual mechanics of this. How does an invisible layer fix the problem of the messy, unstructured library? Like, what is it mechanically doing to the data?
Think of it as an incredibly sophisticated automated translation engine. Let's say an AI company wants to train its model on financial reports from, 10,000 different company websites.
Okay.
In the old system, they would have to write custom web scrapers for each individual site. And traditional scrapers are incredibly brittle.
What do you mean by brittle?
Well, if a company updates its website and moves a button just 2 pixels to the left, the scraper completely breaks because it was looking for a specific line of code that just moved.
Oh, wow. That sounds like an absolute nightmare to maintain.
Oh, it is. It requires armies of engineers just to keep the scrapers running day to day. But the new web data infrastructure layer totally changes the paradigm. Instead of relying on those brittle rules, it actually uses AI to read the web for AI.
Wait, AI reading for AI?
Yes. When it accesses a web page, it doesn't just blindly download the code anymore. It dynamically renders the page, almost like a virtual browser. It figures out what the main content actually is.
Oh, so it's acting like the human in the library.
Exactly. It intelligently strips away the cookie pop-ups, the advertisements, the sidebar menus, and all that visual formatting.
So it's actively filtering out the carpet and the bricks and just grabbing the actual pages of the recipe book.
Precisely. It extracts the pure semantic core of the data, and then, crucially, it structures that data.
It packages it up.
Yes. It converts the chaotic web page into a clean, standardized format like Markdown, JSON, or vector embeddings. These are formats that language models natively understand and can instantly ingest without any further processing.
Okay, let me see if I have a clear picture of this. If the traditional internet we use every day is like a busy, chaotic city street, you've got, delivery trucks double parked, pedestrians jaywalking, traffic lights breaking down. It's messy. Humans can navigate it, but it's slow.
Right, lots of friction.
So this new web data infrastructure layer is like building an invisible, high-speed freight rail system directly underneath those normal city streets.
Oh, that's good.
Right. While you and I keep using the regular roads to browse the web visually, the AI gets its own dedicated, perfectly organized pipeline underground to transport exactly the cargo it needs instantly without ever sitting in our human traffic jams.
The underground freight rail analogy works perfectly, but we really have to emphasize that it's not just about speed, it is fundamentally about transformation.
How so?
Well, the freight rail isn't just bypassing traffic. Imagine if, before the cargo goes underground, there is a massive processing facility that takes all the random, mislabeled boxes from the chaotic city street, unboxes them, throws away the useless packaging, and repackages everything into perfectly identical, machine-readable shipping containers.
Oh, so everything is perfectly uniform by the time it gets on the train.
Exactly. That is the true value of the infrastructure layer. It structurally transforms raw, messy internet chaos into a standardized, usable resource.
Okay, that is a really profound shift in how the plumbing of the internet actually works. But I want to pivot here. The technical mechanics are brilliant, but who actually cares?
Everyone should care.
Right, but what does this mean for the business world? And more importantly, what does this mean for the person listening to us right now?
The business implications are massive, and they fundamentally alter the competitive landscape. To understand why, we really have to look at the barriers to entry in the current AI ecosystem.
The cost, basically.
Right. Because the web is so deeply unstructured right now, leveraging AI at scale is prohibitively expensive. You don't just need computing power. You need massive teams of data scientists, data engineers, and maintenance crews just to clean the data before your AI can even look at it.
Which means only the biggest players can even sit at the table.
Exactly. Historically, only the massive tech giants, the trillion-dollar mega corporations, have possessed the financial resources and the sheer computational horsepower required to untangle the messy web.
Right, they can afford the army of engineers.
Yeah, they could afford to send 1 million digital street sweepers out to clean up the data. And because they could afford to clean it, they effectively had a monopoly on high-quality structured information.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if this new web data infrastructure layer exists as a ubiquitous service, I mean, if that processing facility and the underground freight rail system are available to anyone, it completely changes the game, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
It fundamentally democratizes access to data. Suddenly, a 3-person startup working out of a rented garage could have the exact same frictionless access to high-quality, AI-ready data as a massive legacy tech company.
It levels the playing field overnight, and this forces us to reconsider the entire nature of competitive advantage in the modern economy.
How so?
Well, let's look back at the last 15 years, the 2010s. In the era of social media and Web 2.0, data was the ultimate corporate moat. The company that won was simply the company that hoarded the most data.
Right. Facebook, Google, they just collected everything.
Exactly. They built walled gardens, locked users inside, and extracted massive proprietary data sets. Simply having the data was the business model.
Because if you had the data and no one else did, you didn't even necessarily have to be that innovative with it. The hoarding itself was the value.
Right, the scarcity was the value.
Yeah.
But if we move into an era where this new infrastructure layer perfectly structures the entire public internet and makes it accessible to any AI model, that dynamic entirely flips.
Because the data isn't scarce anymore.
Exactly. If everyone has a pipeline to perfectly structured, high-quality data, then simply having access to data is no longer special. The moat evaporates entirely.
Wow. If data isn't the moat anymore, what is? Like if I'm running a business or even just trying to build my own career, how do I compete in a world where everyone has the exact same pristine data pipeline?
The new moat becomes human ingenuity. The competitive advantage shifts entirely away from data extraction and hoarding, and it moves toward critical thinking, problem solving, and creative application.
So it's not about what you have, it's about what you do with it.
Exactly. It will no longer be about who has the biggest database. It will be about who has the most insightful ideas for how to use that information. Who can ask the AI the best questions? Who can stitch those insights together to solve a novel human problem?
That is actually incredibly encouraging. We spend so much time worrying about AI replacing human skills, but what you're saying is that this structural shift actually puts a massive premium back on human creativity.
It really does.
Because if the tool is universally accessible and fed with perfect data, the only variable left is the craftsman's skill in wielding it.
Exactly. The businesses and the individuals that thrive in this next era won't be the best data gatherers. They will be the best orchestrators of that data.
The orchestrators, I love that.
Yeah, they will be the ones who understand human context, empathy, and creative strategy because the heavy lifting of gathering and structuring the information has been completely outsourced to the infrastructure layer.
Let's take a second to step back and look at the whole picture we've uncovered today. We started with the paradox. The most advanced AI systems in the world are secretly starving for fuel despite living in an era of total information abundance.
Right.
And we realized that the root cause wasn't a lack of data, but a massive architectural flaw. The internet was built for human eyes, leaving data locked behind paywalls or buried in visually chaotic, unstructured web pages that machines simply cannot read.
Yeah, it's the friction of a human-centric design trying to operate in a machine-centric era.
Right. But then we looked at the fix. We explored the emergence of this web data infrastructure layer, this highly intelligent automated translation engine.
Our underground freight rail.
Exactly. It dynamically renders the chaotic web, strips away the visual noise, and repackages the semantic core into standardized formats that AI can instantly digest. It's an invisible freight rail system moving clean data right beneath our feet.
It's doing the heavy lifting so we don't have to.
And finally, we saw the incredible downstream impact of this, the democratization of the AI gold rush. By making clean data accessible to everyone, it destroys the old corporate moats of data hoarding and ensures that the best, most creative ideas actually win.
It is a really profound structural evolution, and it's happening largely out of sight.
Yeah, totally invisible to most of us.
Right. And as we watch this parallel, machine-readable internet being constructed beneath the surface of the web we use every day, it raises a really fascinating philosophical question. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Ooh, all right, let's hear it.
If we are actively, relentlessly restructuring the foundations of the internet to make it more friendly, more readable, and more efficient for artificial intelligence, at what point does the web stop being a place built primarily for humans and start becoming a place built primarily for machines?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy concept to leave us with. If the machines get their own optimized internet, are we eventually just going to be tourists in their digital house? We will definitely be chewing on that one for a while.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Remember, keeping up with these invisible structural changes, understanding the actual mechanics of the plumbing beneath the shiny surface is the ultimate shortcut to being truly well-informed. We will catch you next time. Stay curious.